Okay, first of all, let's notice the piece. Where are you going so fast? If you're watching the news, and if your consciousness is sunk in all of that, it's important that you also see what the eternals look like. This is the way the world looks when we are fixed in the eternal and not floating on the rough sea of the news. Sun is just setting. Keep telling people not to focus on the news. The news is very chaotic. Until your mind is firmly anchored in the eternal, watching the news is not a healthy practice. Once our minds are firmly rooted in the eternal, then that which we see in time is an expression of peace. It is a particular form that peace is taking. So the eternal peace takes on myriad changing forms, kaleidoscopic forms, but it's the same underlying peace. It's very, very important to get rooted in that peace first, because when we're in that peace, what we see are the way in which peace is expressing itself now. If we're not rooted in that peace, the news is ever-changing chaos and horror and so forth and so on. That's the way the mind works. That is the nature of consciousness. Consciousness not controlled, consciousness not under our deliberate direction is chaotic. That is the default setting. When we get our consciousness under control, then we can deliberately use it to create forms of peace. Now, babies are born small. So are worlds of peace. First, you start out being able to manage a small world of peace. That's the way it works. So in order to be able to get a grip on peace, we have to strip our experiences down to the minimum and not be dealing with like a whole bunch of stuff. And that will require living in a smaller world than we were used to living in. You know, it's like moving into a smaller apartment after you've been living in a big house. But if you can no longer afford the mortgage on that big house, you may have to move into a smaller house, and you'll find that even though it feels small at first, at least you don't have the worry of not being able to pay your debts, right? It's a very similar thing with moving into a world of peace. In the beginning, it's smaller than the world that we knew. We're not flying around as much, we don't have as many factors, we don't have as many people, we don't have as many responsibilities and input and all kinds of stimuli. And we need that simplification in order to be able to get a grip. Once we have a firm grip on a smaller world of peace, then we can begin to branch out, right? The creation is endless. We will eventually get to a level where we are in endless worlds of peace and forms of peace and so forth and so on. But in the beginning, one has to be able to pare things down to the basic minimum and get a grip on that. Thank you for living. I just said thank you for living. Thank you for living, and thank you for listening.